So
yeah. Unfortunately, the VR support we've been pending on our Unity 22 upgrade to really do a full workover of that one. That's Joshua's department actually. Maybe it would be good to bring him along next time I do one of these, so he can talk to a bit about that stuff.
The Quest 2's been broken as well. Apparently, Carson's been
again?
reporting it. All the controllers are broken on it.
Is that on the live one or is that on the preview one?
On every viewer, I think. Carson, what viewers is it on? I know it's on the Superlight.
The other thing that I just mentioned that is catching my interest, because this is my research area. Of those students, these are all people that are working for a living. I mean, they got their undergraduates a long time ago. They're coming back to masters and PhDs to use virtual reality / metaverse, including desktop, obviously. So at the moment, the newbies in her group are going to probably end up using Mozilla Hubs and Frame for their educational project. The Valve guy with full body tracking will probably do VR chat for his environment, and the rest of them are likely going to use spatial. So those are the other key environments that Marie's got on her list. But remember, this is a 2 to 4 year pilot program that she got approval for from her vice president. So, down the road, she's keeping Sinespace on her list because it does both desktop and headset VR.
Yeah. I mean, our focus has traditionally been on the more flat screen environments, just because VR is not terribly popular yet. When you look at the audience statistics, there is definitely a growing niche of people who are interested in VR headsets and accessing the environment with them. But from all the data that we sort of see and research and so on, still very, very small compared to the people who are going to be accessing desktops and phones, which is really where a lot of our effort is going towards. Diggy, I don't know, are you planning on presenting any of the design stuff this week? I'm not sure what your
yeah, I was going to show what we have done for the Orange VR a bit.
Brilliant. All right. Well, yeah, that's good to see. So, I think I've mentioned this before in our previous one, that we're sort of color coding the reviewers. So, the one that's out right now is red. The next one's orange. Then there's yellow, and so on and so forth. And yellow is the one that's got the 2020 upgrade in it, but orange is one that's been sitting almost ready to go, but not quite for some time, which is the Superlight preview viewer.
Yeah, the other thing we're trying to do is we are trying to test it as much as possible, so we have less hiccups on the lives, and the product on live is well tested, so it's easier for new users, and with less bugs. That's why we are hesitant to push it to live yet, because it has a huge network stack and lots of new features in there.
Yeah, we've got a freeze bug that we're tracking down at the moment, and that's the one that's holding up the Superlight viewer more than anything else, I think. We've been trying to trace down exactly what can trigger it, but it certainly seems to be that when it gets triggered, it really does lock up everyone in the region simultaneously. So the office managed to reproduce it just yesterday, so we're hoping that we'll be able to get a good fix to that one in the next sort of 2 or 3 days, and then hopefully we can do another build and get that one out the door. It really is holding up a lot of other stuff as well with that particular viewer coming out. It's good to know that there is some issues with the Quest controller tracking. Unfortunately, our QA department's based in our Shanghai office, and the Oculus Quest is actually blocked there, which is really annoying. So they're having to use Vive for most of their. Joshua maintains the Quest support, so I might get him to have a quick look at that as well and just see if we can fix the grip and trigger and
yeah, Josh is already aware of this as well. He's
he is? Oh, brilliant. Okay.
Yeah, I made a ticket and assigned it. He asked me to make a ticket and assign it to him, but it was I told him while he was on holiday last week, so he hasn't had a chance to touch it yet.
Well, I was kind of taken aback, Adam and Zoo, by talking to Marie at the variety of headsets her students are bringing with them. And the issue with Phase Zero VR labs in universities is the students use their own equipment because of the lockdown. So that's number one. Number two, she's into research. I mean, she worked for HP for 30 years into the VR vision. She loves having all those headsets. But it took me aback because I've been assuming everybody's going to get a Quest and recent platform should support hunky dory. But with people like Marie around, the other
There's
hand,
a lot of them. If you can actually see my wall, I can do a video share here, so you'll get to see my. Oh, hold on. Get the right device picked here. Webcam device. Let's switch that to that. And there we are. So you can see behind me over there, and I wasn't prepared to put my face on camera today, so special thing. You can actually see that I have a wall of headsets and more behind me as well. There's just so many that we have to support, and they all work in different ways and misbehave in different ways as well, which is always a bit of a pain point around the place. So look,
if you don't mind, Adam, I'll ask you to send me a list of all the ones you have. Marie would adore that. I'm not kidding.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's all of the above, almost. The only one I don't have is a Valve Index because they won't ship to Australia. But everything else, I have one, and we've got quite a few other people with similar collections and arrays.
like I said, I
Look,
think there's 2 to 4 years to get VR headsets really being a thing. That's me feeling that.
Yeah, the technical side is getting a lot more clean. But once we do the Unity 2020 upgrade, we've got a consistent interface to every device, and we're going to be looking forward to that because it'll make our life easier. But look, I'm open to. We talked a bit about this at last time I was around. So let's move on the topics because obviously we've only got an hour, and it'd be cool to jump around in a few things. There is some cool stuff coming down the pipeline which I can talk about if that's what you guys are interested in. I'm currently working on, and I talked about this in the scripting chat on Discord maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, talking about breaking our network protocol. I've got some cool benefits of that coming out the pipeline now, which I think might be interesting if people want to hear that. That's probably mostly relevant to scripters more than anyone else, but still interesting that we can talk about. So if that's of interest to anyone, pipe up. Otherwise, I'm open to questions. Okay, that's a yes.
I have a question. Have a moment.
Yeah.
Is there in place, or might there ever be in place, when we're uploading large files like a region?
Yep.
Is there in place a pause upload, or if we lose internet connection, it would pause, like an FTP program or?
Yeah, so this actually ties into a little bit of what we've been working on. So there's a very big change that myself and Joshua have been working on for a while now. I've actually been working on it for about a year, and this actually ties into what I was going to talk about on the server side. So it's a neat pairing. One of the problems we've got at the moment is the way we store object data. The object data we do is stored in a very efficient format, so it's designed to be downloaded by the clients in a very optimized way. Make sure that we basically don't waste a kilobyte as sort of describing the scene contents. The problem with the way we pack this data is that because we grab lots of data all at once, it all has to be processed at once, which is why we sort of upload at once. We process everything, export the files that we're interested in. Those get sent to the client. The problem with that model is that while it's very efficient, it's not very user-friendly. And I can put that from 2 perspectives. One, it's from the perspective of people who are uploading content that you've got to upload huge chunks of data, and we do that, and we process it from there. But the other side is also scripters, and we'll talk about that as well in a second. So one of the big changes that we were looking at doing before, the first approach to this one was that we were going to have the processing servers store more data about what you are, so that it could negotiate with the editor panel, say, all right, I actually only need the textures that are changed. And that would give you things like resuming and faster uploads, potential region, the whole lot of it. The problem is that with that model is that it's still fundamentally problematic in that you've got long processing times attached to everything that you upload. And we talked a bit about doing a revision of the processing servers that I talked last year about doing a change in the processing servers so that processing would take seconds rather than minutes. to go through, and even can take hours if you've got really big content. And that's actually what's led to what we're doing right now. So we've actually been splitting up the data, and instead of us storing sort of one or a few big files that sort of efficiently compress everything and make it appropriately and all the instead of doing it that way, we're actually splitting things up into lots of micro elements that are defined in our own storage formats. And there's two reasons for doing that. One, it gives us a lot more stability on going between Unity versions. We don't need to do as much patching. But the second thing is that it's going to allow you to modify just tiny pieces of the scene simultaneously. And we can move more and more of this into the actual client rather than inside the editor pack. So it's going to be a case that you'll upload 3D models from the client. You'll be able to do everything eventually the editor pack. But there's another side benefit. I've been circling around this point, and this is some super light changes that I've been doing. Has been actually making it so that the region server that we've got, is now completely and fully aware of every part of the scene. That includes things like asset references, includes the actual state of the where, what components they've got to to them. The really cool thing is that at some point, very very soon, we'll actually be able to enable scripts on the server to modify scene contents. So you will actually be able to browse the in server scripts and do things more efficiently, and make things a lot easier when it comes to updating persistent properties, doing things like signs where you're modifying the text on the sign. That can be done straightforward without any database access. And obviously from editors' perspectives, it's going to mean that because we're uploading smaller and smaller bits, those long upload times will there'll still be an intermediate changeover period where we're still using bits and both, but the goal of what we've been doing has been to make it much easier to have more dynamic environments, and it also lets us have much bigger environments too, so we can stream more content, have environments that are taking advantage of some did 2 years ago on creating sort of what we call giga regions, which are bigger than normal regions, and stream the content. That stuff all just has seamlessly transferred into what we're doing here. So there will be a very big update down the line. I'm hoping sooner than later, but big engineering project that almost completely changes the back end works, and that's going to make life, I think, easier for everyone. It's going to enable a whole host of very cool developments that scripters are going to love and content creators are going to love. And I think that it'll also mean we can have much more in the way of regions that have got lots of owners working simultaneously, smoother, more efficient. We've got lots and lots of bits sitting on the sidelines with this as well. We've got a new parcel system that replaces the Room 4 system. Lots of things that we've been working on for quite a long time are all coming out as part of this sort of one big update, and that'll be sort of drip fed over the next couple of releases. First stuff we'll see here will come in the release, and then there'll be bits and pieces coming in for that as well that we're moving towards. So look, I've been chatting for about 20 minutes, so I'm going to pass over to Diggy, and then we'll come back and we can do. Diggy, you've got some cool stuff to show off, I think. So.
Yeah, so adding on to what Adam said, but we have a couple of things planned over the next couple of releases. So the way we are moving forward is we are trying to get the items that are beneficial for first-time users and prioritize those UX and UI changes. And then moving from there, we are going to more advanced stuff. So just to show some of it to you guys, hopefully you can see my screen.
Yep.
I'm going to just,
Diggy, just for reference, your mic is clipping just a little bit. If you maybe knock the sensitivity down by like 10%, it'll.
Sure. Is that better now?
Yeah, that is tons better. Awesome.
Wow, the viewer load's quick on a Mac. That was really quick.
He has one of the new M1 MacBooks.
Yeah, and I'm running 2 of them.
Oh.
So this is our new login screen. You can see we have changed it to more full screen, so you can see the background image. Sorry?
Yeah, you're still clipping a bit. Sorry. Maybe just don't talk as directly in your mic.
Okay. Is it better now?
Yeah.
So as you can see, we have redone the login screen, made it a bit more simple, and you can see the background images that will be changing. The other major change we did was on the registration process. Previously, it was a bit old. We haven't touched it for a long, long time. We went and cleaned up the registration process. This is the new registration process. We'll be adding more default avatars over there. Much simpler. You can click on any avatar, continue to the next steps. The other major change we did was we added a new display name, which is non-unique for the grid, which means user won't have to sit there trying to guess a username that's available for the platform. There can be multiple same display names. The username, however, will be unique. What we'll be doing is first time the username will be generated automatically from the display name, which is unique, and the user can then change it once, and after that they can change it using gold. If they're a premium member, they'll be able to change it using every 30 days. So going back from there, I'm just going to log into the previous server so it doesn't kick me out of here. The other change we did was we are still in the process of this is redo the entire outfit window completely. So this is the new outfit window. You have presets already. In the initial version, the presets that we have changes both the body and the head. But what we are doing is, from the feedback we got, we are going to split it body as a separate and face as a separate, so you can change either or. Then you can go to customize section where you can customize your avatar and wardrobe. So there's lots of cool changes on the outfit window that's coming, and we are also trying to improve the outfit window. I can show you the couple of iterations. For example, in the previous one, you saw the entire customization as being one thing with a slider. We try to categorize it so it's easier to navigate. Again, like I said, face and body presets are coming. We're going to convert into a tab. What we're going to do is when this design is complete, we're going to share with you for feedback, and hopefully we can get some feedback from you guys and then reiterate before we release the next version. The other update that we did on this was the network update. Many of you should be aware of that and have tested it already.
Yeah, we've been, but we did last week's community hour on Superlight Viewer.
Okay, brilliant.
And the other thing is, now that we started testing more in the community, we're finding stuff that we don't find in our other testing processes as well. Because obviously the community do different things.
Yeah, so we did like full overhaul on this outfit window. It's great to have some feedback and some when you guys try it either on the preview server or on the live when it's released. Do you guys remember what else we changed? Because I think that's all I can think
Did we
of
make a
at the
change to the
moment.
event window in this one? I can't remember if that was in this release or
Which
not.
one? Sorry?
Events.
Mark's just asked about that now in the new one, you don't seem to be able to adjust the height of a full body avatar where you could on the old outfit window.
Yes, that seems like a bug that we need to fix. There should be an ability to change the outfit, the full avatar.
Yeah, we definitely should make sure that's there.
Yeah.
One of the things I can show as well, if you're free, let me quickly pull my magical rotating display across. Give me 1 second, guys. I will show you something else that's related to these UI changes, and particularly what's guiding some of the design decisions that are going on the desktop one. Let me quickly rotate my webcam and itself. Right.
Do you want me to stop sharing, Adam?
Yeah, go ahead. So this is obviously what I've shown before, and I showed this at office hours as well, but might be able to get in here at the same time. I think I should be able to. Don't know how this is going to behave with all these avatars in here, so this might be a case that I need to flip to the preview grid, but find out in a second. This is obviously the mobile version that we've been building. I don't know how clear that is. Do I need to do something to make that a little bit more visible? Please tell me in chat if that's sufficiently visible or not.
I can see it somewhat. Yeah, that's better.
Yeah, it's a little bit hard to see, so I might we might be stuck with broad strokes views here unless I can shuffle that along. I know it's the color is a bit washed out. It's always a bit hard taking pictures of what we're doing there. So
Is that the mobile version? Sorry,
this is the mobile version. So this is running on an iPad.
Oh wow, cool.
So I think with some luck, my avatar will log in here at some point. I think I'm connected to the same network. Maybe I am, maybe I'm not.
Adam, can I ask you a
don't think I am.
question?
Yeah.
If I have a touchscreen laptop and Windows 10, will the mobile version work on that?
That is a good question. I don't know the answer to that one. We've tried getting the mobile UI running on desktop, and there was some reasons. It's not a technical reason, but there was some programming reasons why that was misbehaving. But I think it would actually would be great if we could get the touch support, because the UI is much more touch optimized. As you can see, you could sort of go from here to say the Explore window, which looks like this, and as you can see, it's a radically different design to what you're used to. So all the bits and pieces that you're expecting do work. So I can, for instance, pull up the shop, see my avatar on the side, sort of use touch, not moving very much. So yes, you can sort of see. Very very basic there, but all those bits and pieces are there. So let's see what else can I show off. I have to figure out which bits are enabled in this build or not. Some of the windows don't work on this version. Let's see what else.
Do you zoom in and out to your avatar with the two fingers? Zooming in and out?
Yep. So
yeah,
it's multi-touch. Multi-touch first. If I try and navigate, and I'm just have to rotate myself around so we can both see the screen simultaneously. All the bits and pieces are designed to sort of be fluid with a touch screen, but we used to have sort of two modes on our mobile build where you had to sort of toggle between screens, but it's now all been congealed into the one interface. So bring things up.
Is that an iPad that you have?
Yes, so this is an iPad. We are testing with our iOS and Android on this particular build, but it's been a bit of a long slog getting it to where we want it to. So I thought I'd show that one just because it is a cool demo to do, and it sort of shows where some of the UI designs are also leaning that we're trying to minimize the differences between.
And also, whenever we are doing a new UI design, now we are doing for both the platform. Like we are doing a version for desktop and another version for mobile, so we can make sure that the changes are there in both the platforms.
That's really come along. I mean, that's exciting.
What's the chat window like on the mobile version?
That is an excellent question because it does keep changing. I can bring up.
I've just.
This guy's still not finalized yet.
Yeah, there we go. So this one, that's where it's currently at. We've toggled between having a full screen chat and having not full screen chat. It's really difficult to tell on mobile which one's the better one. So clearly this one's much closer to what we've already got. But
yeah, that's okay on the tablet, but on the mobile.
On a phone, it's more difficult. Yeah. We're going principally for tablet first on the mobile builds, just because they have got a little bit more horsepower, and also they do.
We have one more change on that chat window, Adam. That's coming soon. That's
Brilliant.
completely
Well,
overhauling the chat system.
So this,
Is it
just incidentally,
partially
this build I'm
trimmed?
running here is the same one that's available in Discord. So if you've got an iOS device, you can use this same build. It does seem to be behaving better today than it usually does, so that's a good sign. But ultimately, we are making some progress on that one. Awesome. Does anyone have any questions, comments?
That's looking good.
Yeah.
That's all
All
I
right.
can say. Yay.
I'm happy
Keep
to
it
show off any
coming.
other bits and pieces as well. Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
one more
I've
bits and pieces that's coming soon.
got a question.
We are still. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, thank you. I agree with Galen. That looks really cool. Kudos on that. And just full disclosure, I still am not quite seeing the demand, personally, me, to have interactive build on a mobile phone, but on a pad like that, that looks a lot very workable. That said, where are you guys going with this? Adam, you mentioned that mobile is your number 2 priority after Superlight. And do you guys, including Digi, is there a big market for this? Or is your corporate clients demanding mobile?
Oh yeah. It's not so much the corporate side that wants mobile. Yeah, they'll take it, but mobile has always been sort of something we've seen as really must have for the public grid. So it's always been very high on my personal priority list to try and get that one robust and behaving itself.
Like if you look at the
showing off-
stats for Roblox or Minecraft on mobile, that's huge.
yeah, it's like 60% mobile. This is quite cool. So Diggy, this is the room editor. So this is the first time I'm seeing some of this stuff too.
That's
You
because
wanna
it's not
show off the
ready
rest?
for feedback yet. We are soon going to reveal it to everyone for feedback.
So
Do
you're just
Roblox and
teasing us.
Minecraft work on iPad?
They do.
Yes.
Yes. They. One of the big problems we've had has actually been not so much the content itself, but some of the overheads that are attached to it. So things like Unity custom shaders and so forth are a real nightmare for mobile devices to support reliably. Too easy to write stuff that uses gobs and gobs of memory. We have a lot of things being worked on at the moment to really try and sort of nail that stuff down and make sure that it's workable. Well, this is quite cool. So I haven't. This is actually Diggy's showing stuff that he hasn't been showing to me yet because it's still the
Yeah, we
design
haven't seen
phase.
that
This is really
either.
fantastic to look at.
Yeah, so our plan with this is as soon as our designers are happy with this, we'll share with the community and internally for feedbacks, and then we'll work a bit more on it before we actually start building on it, just to make sure that we are happy with the room editor design and it's good for the new user as well as existing advanced user.
Oh, we're actually going to
Nice.
get access to the materials. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be really useful. Save a full upload just to change a material.
Oh, that looks
Oh.
nice. That looks much better.
I see
That's the scale widget. Yeah.
a scalable cube there.
That's
Yeah, the
rotate.
widget.
I just did a quick check. So I just want to be clear, and I appreciate your patience, guys. You're saying that you're kind of seeing marketing wise, Minecraft and Roblox, you're positioning mobile Sinespace as a direct competitor for pad building capability,
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, look, mobile is the big place to be. It's very obvious when you look at the demographics that most
Yeah.
people who are a little bit younger don't have traditional desktop PCs. Yes, you've got them among people who are PC gamers, but and professionals, but you don't tend to see much in the way of sort of powerful devices with a lot of audiences these days. But people's phones and tablets are actually extremely powerful these days. The iPad Pro is just as powerful as a high-end laptop. They really have got a lot of oomph underneath the hood, and there is plenty of other cases as well. And the reality is that the mobile chipsets are getting better at 40% per year, whereas the desktop chipsets have been sitting stagnant for the last 10, and it will not be long before
You
they
can't
cross
even
over
get the
at a
desktop
rate.
chipset nowadays.
No. Intel's been sleeping at the wheel on improving performance of their chips, and Nvidia's certainly spent a while before chipping out the 2080 series. I mean, I think they spent like 6-7 years sitting on the 9 and 10 series before crunching out the new ones. And even then, the new 20 and 30 class GPUs are only marginally faster than the 10 when you're doing non-ray tracing work. So I think that the reality is where we need to be and what we need to be focusing on is actually robust mobile support. That's I mean, it's convenient too. I mean, I think when I'm on my personal time, I've probably got my phone in my hand more than I do have. And I think that's true for a lot of people. So being able to quickly bounce in and out of world from a mobile device is an goal of mine.
Yeah, and it
question of
also makes it
active-
more accessible for people to connect with each other and connect with community.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Do you have more success? It sounds like with the iPad than with Android tablets or phones.
Yes, yes and no. I am personally partial to the Android devices because that's what I use personally. But generally speaking, the hardware under the hood of the iPads is a lot better. I would say that roughly speaking, there's a 2 times performance difference between Android devices and an equivalent priced iOS device. Apple tend to put a lot more effort into higher quality CPUs and GPUs in their mobile devices than most Android providers do. Even the sort of the flagship Android devices like the Pixel series tend to have pretty underwhelming chipsets in them. Some of the high-end Samsung ones are pretty good though. The S20 and above are really great devices from a performance perspective. But ultimately, if you're going to do a like-for-like comparison, I'd say that the iOS ones are generally superior. There is some downsides though too. Memory use on iOS devices is a lot more restricted, and that means that the sort of complexity of the content you can log can on as generally more available to
Sorry,
actually
I
running
missed
up.
that last bit.
Android's generally got more RAM, which lets us load more content into the device and scene.
Oh, okay.
There is sort of pros and cons for each.
Okay.
We are focusing on both.
So if we're thinking about investing in one or the other, just invest the one that we would normally invest in and go with it.
I would say if you're going out to get it for Sinespace specifically, I'd grab an iOS device. Some of the iPads are pretty good. Look for the ones that Apple don't publish their specifications on their own website, but you can Google them to find out what the specs are. Look for the devices with more RAM on the iOS side. Most of the newer ones are okay, but we are targeting roughly a 4 gig minimum, which means that some of the older devices, particularly secondhand devices, you're going to have problems with. Some of the really brand new ones, more RAM is the better. The Pros are fantastic, but obviously the Pros are considerably more expensive than.
Yeah. Oh, you're cutting out.
Adam, are you there?
Yeah, I am. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, the Galaxies are nice. I just got one. It's 12 gigabytes RAM on it.
Yeah. No, the Android ones tend to have lots and lots of RAM, which we love. More RAM, the better.
Okay, that's good to know.
Brilliant. Anyone got any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I'm still stunned. You guys, that's the second week in a row I've been stunned. This is cool that you're saying, I'm interpreting you both correctly, that you see a big market in the kind of Roblox Minecraft popular market for Sinespace running on pads, whether Android or iOS. And so you're thinking the pad format, right? Not the small smartphone or even the Note size, right? Although it would run, obviously, it would run on a Note size or the Galaxy 22 Ultra or whatever it's called these days. Am I reading that correctly? You're seeing a good commercial market.
It's a user interface question more than a device question in particular. The user interface obviously does work better if you got a bigger screen size. That's true because there's a lot of detail that we need to put on. We are going to be working towards the smaller screen sizes as well. They're just as important, but they are a bit more fiddly, and we need to do less at once. In mobiles UIs for phones, you have sort of one thing visible at a time, and that requires a sort of different UI language than it does for desktop and for tablets, where you have a couple of things on. And
Yeah, like you saw in Adam's example, the chat was visible on the pad, but if we put it the same way on the mobile, it wouldn't be really visible. So what we are trying to figure out is unify the chat and fronts into one window. And maybe for mobiles, for smaller screen, we will have to go for full screen for the chat, so user can easily chat and read the chat. Because if you can't read the chat, then it'll be really difficult to communicate with the others. Because not everyone likes to be on voice.
Yeah,
And then I could see a beneficial crosstalk effect once you get the popular market humming along. Then your corporate market can just pick up on it, because as Josh and Les have told us endlessly, you guys always have the same viewer that the white labels do, and the white labels always have the same viewer that you do. So that's kind of cool.
Exactly.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
and then
we're trying to avoid splitting our engineering efforts and doing things that don't benefit the platform as a whole. That's always been a guiding principle of what we're doing with the corporate stuff, is trying to make sure that we can backport or any useful fixes and changes. And generally speaking, I mean, I always think of the Sinespace client as a bit more like a web browser. There's your banking websites, and you got your entertainment websites, and it's the same software that's running both, and that's where we want to head to.
Yeah. And every feature that we are building, we are keeping in mind that we are building it for the platform. So we have to think about what kind of users will be accessing it. And we keep in mind that it will be our commercial users, it may be corporate users, it may be somebody else in the future. So we have to think about all those use cases and then design the UX and design the feature so it's beneficial for all of them and in any platform, whether it be desktop or VR or mobile. We are also going to be doing VR UI after we have completed the mobile UI.
Okay, and then one other question. I'm thinking, and I'm trying to read Galen's mind and others. So on the developer side, where we're building landscapes, and by we I mean Galen, etc., and or building products for the marketplace, is there going to be? Do we need to do something different when we're building, or can we just keep building, especially when you get the new latest version of Unity running in the SDK, blah, 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 tech, babble. Do, do we need to do anything different, like make lower megabyte regions or lower script load to run on the iPad version? Over.
We do a lot of stripping automatically, and once we get the big rewrite that we're currently doing on the back end, that's going to make it easier as well for us to do more automatic reductions of content and being able to sort of display what fits into the budget. What you might find is that we've got some new properties available on components for things like priority to define how sort of important an object is relative to the scene. So if we need to throw something away to save RAM, then the low priority stuff can go first. That's going to be a little bit of a more tricky thing that we'll have to figure out. But ultimately, no, the goal of what we're doing is to make it work with all devices, regardless of what you're doing. Now, that said, test content is really important. There was a case study, and I'm not going to single out a particular creator, but there was a case study just earlier in the week where some content was really lagging a region. And the reason it did that is using runtime reflection probes. We're sort of recalculating the reflection and baking it every single frame. And when you got a couple of those in the scene, it was really crushing the performance. That kind of thing can crush the performance of the PC, and it can absolutely obliterate of smaller devices.
But that does bring up
that we do need.
A good
I hope
point.
that wasn't me who did that.
No, it wasn't Galen. So that brings up the other point, which is if you have a really, really cool platform, which you do, which will now run on the mobile, which you're there. But what are people going to come and do there? And that, assuming you're not going to try to develop it all yourself with paid sine wave entertainment, old standard programmers, you're going to count on developers running on in because of the new platform. So where I'm leading is you'll have some guidelines for efficient building that will work on all platforms for all of us that we can
Kind
go look
of. What we'd prefer to do is
Can I
see
just
content
jump in?
that's really broken, and then from that really broken content, invent programmatic rules that kind of restrict that content from loading on particular platforms or behaving in a particular way on particular platforms. So that in the case of those reflection probes, maybe to do is simply disable support for runtime reflection probes on low-end devices. That actually lets you take advantage of the feature, but also lets us tune the performance impact to be more accommodating depending on what devices you have. Again, if I use the web browser analogy, a web browser doesn't get coded multiple ways for different platforms these days. It used to at one point in time. Nowadays, things are coded so that they will gracefully degrade depending on screen resolution, and it's the same sort of principles that we need to gracefully degrading content in the case of hardware.
Can I just jump
Go
in
ahead.
here
Yes.
for 1 second, Sight? Can I just say something for 1 second? And that is that I don't know when I make regions. I don't know about other builders, but when I do them, I don't really build specifically for VR or for mobile or
Yep.
anything like that. And I have to admit, it's because I don't have to. I just check the box that says, make this work on all these different platforms. And I have been told that my regions look very nice in VR, or they used to anyway. And I've looked at them in mobile, and if they're set up for it, they do look pretty well. So whatever the process is, whatever the processing is, it's working very nicely. So I appreciate that from a creator's point of view.
Yeah, from a technical point of view, I'd say we're not completely there yet. We've done a lot of work on that, but I would say we're probably only 70% of the way to where we need to be for the adaptation between various devices. There's lots of bits and pieces that we need to sort of chase down, like those reflection probes, for instance. We don't know about that problem until someone creates a bit of content using that, and then we suddenly go, oh, that doesn't make a lot of sense here. So there's going to be a lot more cases like that we need to iron out, where not broken content, but inefficient content, we need to work out how to port that to different platforms in a way to ruin the experience.
This
Yeah, for
reminds
example,
me.
we have done. Sorry,
I
go
was
ahead.
just tell you a true story. My mother told me, who was considerably younger than I am, obviously. Anyway, true story. When they first started building superhighways in the United States, they didn't know what to set the speed limits at. Now, my mother told me this, so it's got to be true, Galen. And she said, so they didn't set any speed limits. They just let people drive as fast as they wanted to. And then after a year or whatever the time frame was, they started setting speed limits based on the accident rates. Now, states like Montana, you can still drive 100 miles per hour because the state's huge, because there's nothing around and it's straight. But, if you're in West Virginia or something going around the hills, the speed limits reflect it. So it reminds me of that story, what you're saying. Well, let's just let people load content, and then whatever tries to break the system, we'll throttle it or deprecate it. But then you'll figure out what the standards should be. So
Yeah.
that makes sense.
You won't
Over.
know what's going to break either, will you?
No, that's the thing. There's so many different ways that you can combine content in this platform that trying to get ahead of that is just a lost cause. I noticed Hinckley's asked a question about getting the EP tools to assess content performance. That's a good question. Some of the content stats that we provide already as part of the virtual good component, the clothing component, and scene component, there is some options there already which do define performance to some degree or another. But really, we want to get to the stage where creators aren't trying to squeeze every ounce of performance out of devices, because sometimes those performances change dramatically. Over time, different hardware performs differently at different. We use a historical analogy. Particles. If you ever play an old PlayStation 2 game, you'll notice that all the Final Fantasy games use tons and tons and tons of particles and smoke and all that kind of stuff. And then when you look at the next generation of consoles, the PlayStation 3, it just suddenly all stopped. And the reason for that was that the cost of rendering layered transparency, that is to say, sort of a transparent object in front of a transparent object in front of a transparent object, is what like heavy particle systems use. The cost of that spiked dramatically on the next generation of hardware. So it turned out that stuff that performed well on the older hardware no longer performed well on the newer hardware. And that happens from time to time in different places. It could be texturing, it could be doing shading, Maybe stuff gets faster, like we get ray tracing acceleration. So really trying to predict how things are going to perform at creation time is the wrong move. What instead we should be doing is we should be maximizing the quality of what you upload, and then reducing that quality on the target device. So if particles are suddenly a lot slower, then maybe we change the particle system so less particles are emitted on those devices. We try and sort of adapt it, and that way in the future, when another device comes out that looks can handle that well again, then that's supported. So really what we do want to do is we want to aim for a scenario where people aren't deliberately destroying their own content's visual fidelity in order to match the target's devices, because it's really the wrong way to go. Brilliant. So
what you just did there was give a guideline for developers, which was right on. Thank you.
Yes, it's go nuts. It's the opposite of a guideline. I think actually it's an invitation. Do we have a release date on Superlight? Yes, we kind of do. It's basically sitting at that last. Well, let's talk about. I'll come back to that, Hinkley. 1 second. So release date for Superlight. It's basically pending us finding and fixing a freeze bug, and I think there's 1 or 2 other small little bugs that are floating around as well. There's a bug where sometimes avatars disappear that we are also chasing. Once those 2 are gone, then we are out the door. We actually would have had the Superlight viewer out like 2 or 3 weeks ago if we didn't find those freeze bugs. So as soon as those are chased and out the door, then Superlight should be coming pretty soon. Hinkley, on the philosophy of throwing stuff away, well, the answer is that stuff isn't thrown away in that particular scenario. So that's a competing platform in particular has notorious content that sort of has 20 million polygons being uploaded for a fingernail. The problem with that particular platform is that the content is always displayed at the highest resolution. So it's always going to render that 20,000 million polygons. Whereas the approach that we're taking is actually to destroy the content at runtime. So it never loads a 20 million polygon fingernail. What happens is, see that, we decimate it straight away, and then we might do that decimation on the back end, we might do it on the front end, but the point is that we adapt the content from the highest source material. It's the best way to go, and not rely on creators to optimize content, because if actually this is the exact problem, is if you rely on creators to optimize their content, they won't. There'll be market pressures that sort of lead to a failure of the commons and various other problems where it's all going to be abused from day one. We would rather assume that it's going to be abused from day one and handle it from there.
I've got a quick question for Digi, which is, suppose, hypothetically, I had someone that I was saying you should look into Sinespace for a, account for your business to do stuff. Do I just send them to your website? Do I email you with their name, Digi? I mean, what's the point of contact for a corporate white label client?
For enterprise, I think either send them on the website or send them to our business development head, which is Georgina.
Yeah. So send to them. There's a contact form on breakroom.net, which is actually probably the best place to get picked up by the sales team.
Yeah.
They will reach out, and it actually can let you book a call directly.
Diggy, can I ask you a question about the shop?
Yeah,
is that
sure.
one of the things you are also still working
Absolutely.
on with the whole UI? Okay. One of the things I think this is true, or maybe I noticed it incorrectly. If I upload an item and there are variations in it, and I upload some of the variations, let's say this is normally what I do for the Christmas season, and then after the Christmas season in the spring, I upload another couple of variations. I've noticed that the variations do not appear in the new item. You know what, the newest items in the whatever the screen is. Is that true, or am I misunderstanding that? Because if it is true, I'm wondering if there's a way to get those to show, because some of my content has been around for a long time, and so the virtual good, the Curator ID is old. but I do every so often upload a new variation because of requests or whatever. And if it doesn't show as a new item, it would be nice if it did. I just remembered that just now.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, if you're doing a content update, it should show on the new. On the shop, what we are also doing is we're doing a complete shop overhaul over the time. So we'll be redoing the UIs and redoing how the shop works and how the shop algorithm works. That'll come later down the line. It might not be showing because of a bug at the moment. Maybe we'll look into it.
Okay.
Yeah, if there's something going on there, I would potentially file an issue tracker ticket or just to the F5 report.
Yes,
But
please.
then I would definitely follow it up with a message to one of us in Discord. I think
Okay.
Zulane probably is the best placed to find someone in the dev team to have a look and find out what's going on.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Last question here, I think we'll take, and then unfortunately I do have to go on the hour, so we'll try to be here. Getting previews on gestures, yeah, I think that's a really good idea. Did we put that in the backlog? I think someone was working on it
It
at one
is.
point. Yeah, do we
It's
know
in
when
the
that?
backlog at the moment.
Yeah, is it scheduled for any particular release?
I think it's scheduled with the entire shop overhaul because we need to add the preview system on the shop for gestures and
Yeah.
such.
Okay, I don't know what release that's in, but yeah, it's definitely in the
I'll have to double check.
to-do list.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it is scheduled, please feel free to tell which one it's been scheduled for. But otherwise, it probably will be in something like green or blue.
I want to sneak in a last question, at least for Digi, Adam. I appreciate your time constraint. And that is, again, I'm trying to read the mind of developers for the shop. Recently, in the last month or so, we here on the main grid have noticed that there's a lot new products available, like some brand new full body avatars on the order of 20 gold, 20, whatever, 20 bucks US. So, and they're nice. They're really good. And then I think Zoo or Les or somebody said, oh yeah, that's because there's now a plugin to the Unity Asset Store. And so developers on the Unity Asset Store, blah, 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 you can now buy their stuff, which we had a lot of discussion on that. So that's a whole new market for those developers, for those who are developing here. And we've asked this in the past, but the question is, we understand that your white label clients, if they so choose on their shop, can enable certain of the main grid developer products to also be shown there. Do you have a point of contact? Let's say I have somebody that wants to sell stuff to your corporate clients through your shop. Who do they contact?
That's a really good question because it's actually the review team who tags stuff.
Yeah.
There's currently 4 categories that we use for the white label stuff beyond the normal outlines. There's a couple of broad rules on what gets allowed to be sold and what's not, and this is not formally codified anywhere, but I can at least give you an outline on. We'll have to go in 3 minutes, so I'll be quick. Rules number 1 is that it can't be too risque. The public grid rule is MTV. If MTV can show it, we can show it. The business client rule is not. It's very much
more of a
smart
PG.
casual. So if it's appropriate to be worn in a business setting, then that ticks that box. Then it needs to fall into a couple of categories. I think that there is sort of a smart casual / business wear category. There's a fantasy category, which is pretty much anything almost, just as long as it's PG. We've got I think it's a low poly category. What's the last one, Diggy? Do you remember what the
Low
last
poly.
one is?
Fancy,
there's low
smart
poly.
casual, business, and low poly.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, so I think business is much more formal, so it's suits and ties and that kind of stuff. Always amuses me to find that some of our corporate clients just really insist on very, very uptight clothing rules in the virtual world, but that's something that they know better than us. Yeah, it's but besides that, it gets picked up by the review team. So the review team automatically flags content that's appropriate, adds it to a tag, and then that can be sold on the shop. If you've got stuff, I think I'm not going to open the floodgates to questions about this stuff to the review team because they're not prepared for it, and I don't want to make work for them on spontaneously. But I think that that's something else we should add to the backlog is the ability on Curator to see what your stuff has been tagged at if it actually doesn't meet the guidelines. Maybe we can add an option for an appeal or something just to get all the
that would
stuff
be nice.
checked. Yeah.
So if
Yeah,
it
we can
passes,
probably add an option on Curator as well for you
Yeah.
for creators to apply to be shown in the break grade or want to keep only
Yeah.
on the private
Maybe a
grade.
box we can tick or something. You know,
Exactly.
This is you know, please show this to reviewers for white label grids or whatever we think it's appropriate.
Yeah.
That'd be
Yeah.
nice.
Brilliant. All right, guys, I've got to really dash because I've got a hard start in my next call, but it was great to see everyone, and I will be back.
Thank you,
I think
Adam. That was very
same time
interesting.
next month.
Thank both of you.
Thanks, everyone.
No
Thank
problem.
you, Diggy.
Try and get Joshua with me next time as well, because then we can talk about some of the stuff
Yeah.
we've been working on together. Brilliant. All right. Talk to you guys later. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.